I didn't mean to look at her that way. Or maybe I did, maybe I'd been waiting for an excuse to. The cafe was almost empty, late afternoon light spilling through the window like honey, catching on the edge of her hair. She sat across from me, reading something she wasn't really reading. I could tell because her fingers kept tracing the rim of her cup, slow and distracted, as if every movement was buying her time from saying something she didn't want to say. She was older, not by a little, but by enough to make every second of silence between us feel like a dare. Her name was Elena, and she'd once been the person who told me to write honestly, to never flinch from what scared me. I used to think she meant stories. I didn't realize she meant people too. Now here she was, sitting across from me, years later, pretending we were just catching up. Pretending the air wasn't thick with something that had been quietly building since the moment our eyes met again. Still staring, she murmured, eyes never leaving her coffee. I'm not, I lied. A small smile pulled at the corner of her mouth, that kind of half-smile that knows too much. If you keep looking at me like that, she said softly, her voice steady but her breath just a little uneven, I'll forget my name. Her words landed somewhere low in my chest, quiet, dangerous. I wanted to laugh it off, to say something clever, but my mouth didn't move. My hand brushed the table, close enough to touch hers, and the space between our fingers suddenly felt like the most complicated thing in the world. Outside, a bus passed, rattling the glass. The sound made her blink, made both of us remember that we weren't alone in the world, that there were still rules, lines, years between us. But her hand didn't move away. There's something that happens when someone looks at you like they see everything, not the version you try to be, but the parts you keep folded out of sight. She looked at me like that now, and it made my throat go dry. Her perfume was faint, something floral, softened by the day. The light shifted and touched her collarbone, and she adjusted her scarf, a small, unthinking motion that made the air seem to hum. You always used to think too much, she said. Still do, I answered. You always used to pretend you didn't. That made her laugh, a real laugh this time, quiet but honest, the kind that slips out before someone remembers to hold it back. She looked at me then, really looked, and for a moment I forgot how to breathe. The waitress appeared beside us, asking if we wanted another round. Elena hesitated. No, she said, her voice softer now. We're fine. But her hand stayed near mine, her eyes didn't leave me. Something had shifted, subtle but irreversible. I wanted to ask her how long she'd been thinking about this, about us, but I didn't. She wouldn't have answered. Maybe she didn't know. The world outside moved on, traffic, footsteps, evening stretching thin, but inside the cafe, everything had gone very still. Then, just as I opened my mouth to say her name, the bell over the door chimed. Her expression changed, a flicker of something, half regret, half fear. She looked toward the sound, then back at me. Don't, she whispered. Not yet. And just like that, she stood, leaving her coffee half finished, her scent still hanging in the air as the door closed softly behind her. I didn't see her again for 3 days. Long enough for reason to settle in, but not long enough to forget the way her voice had trembled when she said, Not yet. When I finally did, it wasn't planned. It never is with the people who undo you quietly. I was walking home through the park when I saw her sitting alone on a bench, same scarf, same distracted grace. She was reading again, though the book was upside down. I hesitated, watching her from a distance for a few seconds longer than I should have. Then she noticed me. Her smile was faint. You shouldn't sneak up on people like that, she said. I wasn't sneaking, I replied. You just didn't see me coming. Her gaze lingered, soft, then sharp, like she couldn't decide whether to stay or run. You always did have that effect, she said quietly. We talked as the sky began to dim, the air turning cool. She told me about her divorce, not in detail, just fragments. He was kind. Just somewhere else, most of the time. Her voice trailed off, her eyes following the wind like it could carry away what she didn't say aloud. I wanted to tell her I understood that kind of absence, that I'd been in relationships that felt like talking into a mirror, but she wouldn't have believed me. She still thought of me as young. When she looked back at me, there was that same flicker from the cafe, recognition mixed with hesitation. People would talk, you know, she said suddenly. About what? She gave a short laugh. About this. Us. The teacher and the one who never really stopped looking at her like he was still learning something. I wanted to say that I didn't care. But I did. Maybe she did too. That was the problem. Either of us could pretend it didn't matter. We started walking slowly, the kind of walk that buys time. A leaf brushed against her shoulder, and without thinking, I reached out to remove it. My hand lingered, a heartbeat too long, against the fabric of her coat. Her breath caught. I felt it more than heard it. Then she turned to face me, closer than before, her eyes searching mine like she was looking for the version of herself she'd left behind years ago. You should stop doing that, she whispered. What? Looking at me like I'm something you could have. Her voice wasn't cruel, it was careful. And yet, when she stepped past me, her hand grazed my arm, slow and deliberate. It wasn't an accident. We stopped under the old willow near the pond. The air smelled like rain and early night. For a moment, neither of us spoke. Her hand brushed mine again, but this time she didn't pull away. The silence between us stretched, not empty, but full. Then, without looking at me, she said, "You were always better at writing than waiting." And before I could answer, she turned slightly, close enough for her breath to touch my cheek. Neither of us moved. The world held still. And for the first time, she didn't tell me not yet. The next time I saw her, it was raining, the kind of rain that didn't fall hard, just stayed suspended in the air, soaking through everything slowly. Elena opened the door before I could knock twice. Her hair was damp, a few loose strands clinging to her temple. She looked startled, but she didn't tell me to leave. "You'll ruin my floor," she said, voice softer than her eyes. "I'll take my shoes off," I replied, half a smile, half an apology. She stepped aside, and I walked into the warmth, into the scent of coffee and something faintly floral that was hers alone. We were supposed to be talking about my writing. She'd said she wanted to read something new. But the printed pages on the table were untouched. Instead, we talked around things. The rain. Her work. How the world had changed since we'd last known each other. And then there was silence. Long, unhurried silence. The kind that doesn't need to be filled, but hurts anyway. She was sitting across from me again, just like that day in the cafe, only this time her scarf was gone, her neckline soft and bare. Her fingers brushed the edge of a page, then stilled. "You really shouldn't be here," she said finally. "I know. Then why are you?" "I don't know that either." Her laugh was quiet, almost a sigh. "You always answer like that. Half-truths. Only because you ask whole questions." She looked up then, and the air between us shifted, again. A phone buzzed on the counter, sharp against the rain's murmur. She flinched, reached for it, and I caught a glimpse of the name flashing on the screen, Mark. Her ex-husband, maybe? Or someone new? She silenced it without answering, her face unreadable. "He always calls at the wrong time," she said, not quite to me. The space grew tighter after that. Not physically, but something inside the moment started to close in. I watched a drop of water slide from her hairline down to her jaw. I wanted to brush it away, but I didn't move. "You keep looking at me," she said again, voice barely above a whisper. "Only because you keep being there." Her lips parted, like she wanted to say something, or maybe stop me from saying anything at all. Then came the sound, a knock at the door. We both froze. "Probably my neighbor," she said, though her voice was too low to convince either of us. I could hear my own heartbeat. She stood still, eyes darting between me and the hallway. The knock came again, firmer. Without thinking, she took a step closer. Her hand brushed my sleeve, then stayed there. "Don't," she whispered. "Just stay quiet." The sound of keys outside. Footsteps moving away. The tension unwound just slightly. When she turned back, her face was close, too close. The faint smell of rain still clung to her skin. Either of us spoke. Her hand was still on my arm. Mine found hers without thinking. We didn't kiss, not yet. But she didn't step back either. For a second, it felt like the whole world had leaned forward with us. Waiting.it happened on a Thursday, the kind of evening that felt like it couldn't decide between light and dark. She'd asked me to bring the story draft she hadn't finished reading. I told myself that was why I went. But the truth was simpler. I wanted to see her again, even if I didn't know what I'd do when I did. When I arrived, the curtains were drawn, the room lit by the soft hum of a single lamp. She looked tired, not in a way that made her less beautiful, but in a way that made her human. Her hair was loose this time. No scarf, no armor. "Sit," she said, and gestured toward the couch. I did. She stayed standing, arms crossed, watching me with a quiet intensity that made my throat tighten. "Why do you keep coming here, Noah?" she asked finally. "I don't know." "Try harder." Her tone was calm, but her eyes betrayed her, that flicker of emotion she always tried to hide. I took a breath. "Because I can't stop thinking about you. And it's getting worse." For a moment, she didn't move. The clock ticked somewhere behind us. Then she exhaled, slow, deliberate, and came closer. "You shouldn't say things like that," she whispered. "Then tell me to stop." Her gaze dropped to the floor, then to my mouth. "I can't." The silence after that was the loudest thing I'd ever heard. She sank onto the couch beside me, close enough that I could feel the heat of her skin through my sleeve. "You don't understand," she said. "If people knew, I don't care about people. I do." There it was, the wall she kept rebuilding, even as her hand brushed against mine. The contact was accidental at first, but neither of us pulled away. Her fingers trembled, just slightly, before settling, lightly, against my wrist. Her breath hitched. "This isn't fair to you." "Then make it fair," I murmured. She looked at me then, really looked, and the years between us disappeared, all the rules, the hesitations, the fear of what this could ruin. I raised a hand and brushed a strand of hair from her face. She closed her eyes, not resisting, just breathing. The room smelled like rain again, faint perfume and the sharp edge of electricity in the air. "You make it hard to remember what I was supposed to protect," she said softly. "What were you protecting?" "Myself." Her voice broke on the last word, and something inside me broke with it. I leaned in, not enough to touch, but enough that I could feel her breath against my lips. She didn't move away. Her hand slid to my chest, flat against my heartbeat, as if she needed proof it was real. I whispered her name. She opened her eyes, steady, sad, wanting. Then came the sound, her phone again, vibrating against the table, pulling the air out of the moment. Neither of us moved to answer it. We stayed there, breathing the same small space, her hand still on my chest. Finally, she said, "If you don't leave now, I won't let you." And for the first time, I didn't move. For 2 days, I didn't hear from her. Not a message. Not a word. I told myself it was better that way, space to breathe, to remember who we were before everything blurred. But every time my phone buzzed, my pulse jumped, expecting her name. When she finally texted, "Can we talk?" I didn't even finish reading the message before I was already halfway to her street. The door was open when I got there. She stood by the window, arms folded tight, watching the rain. Her reflection flickered in the glass, calm, but not composed. "I shouldn't have called you," she said. "Then why did you?" Her shoulders rose, fell. "Because I couldn't stop thinking about that night." Silence. The kind that presses down until one of you breaks. Then she turned, her eyes sharper than before. "My ex came by yesterday. He saw us." The words hit harder than I expected. "Saw us?" I echoed. "Through the window. He didn't say much. Just looked. You know that kind of look." I swallowed. "Does he care?" She hesitated, too long. He knows me well enough to know what that look meant. Her voice trembled then, and for the first time, she looked scared. I took a step forward, but she held up a hand. No. Please. Just don't. Her voice was steady, but her hand shook. Do you regret it? I asked. I regret that it felt so easy. She laughed softly, but it broke halfway through. I've spent years being careful, she said. Careful with my words, careful with my life. And then you walk in, and everything I built starts to come apart. She walked past me, close enough that her shoulder brushed mine, her scent trailing after her, jasmine and rain. It made my chest ache. You think I wanted this? She whispered. I tried to keep it from happening. I tried not to look at you like that. She stopped. I failed. Her confession didn't sound like guilt. It sounded like surrender. I turned to face her. She was close now, her face flushed, her eyes glinting with something raw. What do you want me to do? I asked quietly. Leave, she said, but she didn't move. Say it again, I whispered. Leave, she repeated, even softer this time. But when I reached for my coat, she caught my wrist. The contradiction hung between us, the words pushing me away, her touch begging me to stay. Her hand trembled against my skin. I told him it was nothing, she said, barely audible. My heart stuttered. And is it? She looked up, eyes wet, voice breaking. It was supposed to be. The rain grew heavier, drumming against the window like a heartbeat gone wild. We stood there, too close, too still. The truth between us no longer deniable. Her hand slid down from my wrist, her fingers brushing mine once more. Then she whispered, If you come back tomorrow, I won't lie to him again. And she stepped away, leaving me with the sound of rain, and no room left to pretend it was late when I went back, too late to make it look accidental. The rain had stopped, but the air still smelled like it remembered. Her light was on. I could see her shadow moving behind the curtains, restless, like she'd been waiting for something she didn't want to arrive. I knocked once. No answer. Then, the sound of the door unlocking. Elena stood there barefoot, hair slightly undone, wearing an expression that was neither surprise nor relief, just quiet inevitability. You shouldn't be here, she said. I know. Her hand was still on the door, but she didn't close it. When I stepped inside, the house felt smaller, as if the walls themselves were holding their breath. She turned away from me, her voice low. He came again. My ex. Asked questions I couldn't answer? What did you tell him? That you were a friend. She paused, her back still to me. It didn't sound true, even to me. I moved closer, each step measured, cautious. Then don't lie anymore. Her shoulders tensed. And what? Tell him I let someone half my age make me forget who I am? I didn't speak. I couldn't. When she turned, her face was inches from mine, her eyes bright, furious, scared. You don't understand what this costs me. I do, I said quietly. Because it's costing me too. Something in her broke then. The distance she'd kept between us for weeks, gone. She took a step closer, close enough that her breath brushed against my throat. Her hand lifted, hesitated in midair, then rested against my jaw. For a heartbeat, either of us moved. Her eyes searched mine, looking for a reason to stop. There wasn't one left. This can't be real, she whispered. It's the only thing that feels real. Her thumb grazed my lip, a soft, trembling touch that said everything words couldn't. I've spent years being careful, she said, voice shaking. And now I can't remember what I was careful for. The silence that followed wasn't empty, it pulsed, alive, unbearable. Her forehead leaned against mine, a quiet surrender. I could feel her heartbeat through the space between us, fast, uneven, terrified. You can still walk away, she murmured. Do you want me to? Her answer came as a whisper, too faint for reason, too strong for denial. No. The world outside disappeared, no rain, no noise, no judgment. Just the quiet rhythm of two people caught in a moment too big to undo. I don't know who moved first, maybe both of us. But our closeness became something electric, suspended between fear and want. Her hand found the back of my neck trembling. I didn't breathe. Then, a pause. She looked up, eyes glistening. "This changes everything," she said. "I know." And this time, she didn't say don't. Morning came slow, as if the world itself was trying not to disturb us. The room was still, light spilling through half-closed curtains, painting her skin in gold, and quiet. Elena sat by the window, knees pulled up, coffee cooling beside her. She looked smaller in the sunlight, softer, like the night had peeled away the years she kept between us. I watched her for a while before she noticed. "You're awake," she said. "Didn't sleep much?" "Me either." There was no tension in her voice now. Just the kind of calm that comes after a storm, the calm that admits something irreversible has already happened. She turned to me. "You should know. I thought about sending you away again. Why didn't you?" Her smile was faint. "Because this time, I didn't want to." We didn't need to say what this meant. It was everywhere, in the way her fingers played absently with her mug, in the soft line of her shoulders as she breathed. I walked over, slow, careful, like she might vanish if I moved too fast. When I reached her, she looked up, and the light caught in her eyes, that same mix of defiance and gentleness that had drawn me in from the start. "I keep thinking about what you said," she murmured. "That you can't stop thinking about me. It wasn't just something I said." "I know." Her voice trembled just slightly. "That's what scares me." I leaned down, close enough to feel her breath. "Does it still?" She shook her head. "Not today." The silence that followed wasn't heavy anymore. It felt safe. She reached for my hand, her fingers brushing mine, hesitant, then certain. Our palms fit together easily, like this was something we'd both been doing in another lifetime. Her thumb traced the line of my wrist, slow, thoughtful. "You'll still write, won't you?" "I think I already am," I said. She smiled at that, the kind of smile that reached her eyes and made the years between us dissolve. Outside, a breeze lifted the curtain, bringing in the scent of wet earth and the first warmth of morning. Elena leaned her head against my shoulder, a small sigh escaping her. "This is impossible," she said softly. "Maybe. But it's real." She laughed, quiet, tender. "You sound older when you say things like that." "Maybe you make me older." Her hand tightened around mine. "And you make me forget how old I am." We stayed like that, her head resting against me, the world outside rebuilding itself. There were still questions, of course. There always would be. But for now, either of us needed answers. Only the moment. The stillness. The warmth of her hand in mine. When she finally looked up, she whispered, almost to herself, "Maybe some things don't need permission to exist." I kissed her forehead, slow, steady, and she closed her eyes, smiling. "Did you enjoy the story? What kind of stories would you like to hear next?"